All right, thank you one more time. The program still this morning on ITV on independent television. We have Barrister Alakwe Mbanefo, a political and also a public affairs analyst in Benin City, a barrister of law. So you're welcome to this program this morning on ITV.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we are going to be looking at the sit-at-home agitation for quite some time now. It's been on. And once we talk about the sit-at-home agitation, readily, we remember the IPOB. That's the indigenous people of Biafra, an organization that we all know sometime last year, around September, or perhaps it was proscribed by the federal government. As we speak now, in some major states in the southeast, it's been on sit-at-home agitation. And of course, about a few days ago, we understand that there is a tendency for this agitation to spread outside at the southeast. We understand that in Lagos State, there was actually a kind of an order that was given by a factional leader of IPOB in the person of Mr. Simeon Ekpa, that the southeasterners in Lagos should also begin to, adhere to this sit-at-home order. And of course, in defiance to that now, we also understand that Gani Adams now, one of the chiefs in Lagos, had to give a very stern warning that they should not obey such law in Lagos State. They should not obey such order in Lagos State. Now, for a lot of persons, the IPOB has been proscribed. Of what efficacy can a proscribed organization still have? That's one big question that is yet to be answered. Perhaps we may have to ask that question to Barrister Alakwe now. Now, Barrister, you're welcome one more time. Now, IPOB has been proscribed. There's no doubt about that. But we keep on hearing sit-at-home orders. So, of what efficacy is IPOB, still giving that order?
Well, we have the whole issue is a little confusing, because the newspaper reports are saying that IPOB gave the order. IPOB is saying they never gave any order. That the factional leader of IPOB, or the proscribed IPOB, Mr. Simon Ekpa, is the person that is giving the orders. And the question is this: if IPOB or a factional leader of IPOB is giving that order, and people are obeying those orders, the question is this: how many governments do you have in the eastern part of Nigeria? Because for all I know, the states in the eastern part of the country are still under the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And those states are, the governor from the eastern part of the country, still functions within the 1999 Constitution as amended.
Yeah. And
the governors of the eastern region still takes orders from the federal government of Nigeria. And the police we have in the east, the army, the air force, the navy, are all organs of government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And then if somebody is giving a sit-at-home order and people are obeying it, and those who disobeyed these orders are being killed and maimed, the question we do ask is, where lies the security apparatus in the southeast? Because the whole thing is difficult to understand, because most times people have lost their lives, vehicles have been burnt, markets burnt, market shot, the governors are there, the commissioners of police are there, and the other security agencies are there. And how powerful is this gentleman who comes to cause mayhem in the southeast under the order? So we expect that if it's a country where, security is functioning very, very well, we expect that the federal government, under the commissioners of police in these eastern states, should be able to stand their ground and allow people to go about their normal business. and then get rid of any miscreant that is coming to disturb people from going about their normal duties.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of this whole crisis, when the sit-at-home started earlier, the people's understanding was that the sit-at-home was a situation where they have sympathy from Nnamdi Kanu,
Yeah.
who was,
Who is being detained now.
Yes, who's been detained now,
Yeah.
and who was fighting for Biafran independence. And then, but the people from the southeast felt that the man having been allowed to go home by the court, that the federal government or the courts ought to have allowed him to go. But unfortunately, the power that be, has not allowed that to happen. And so that sit-at-home was a kind of sympathy for the young man. But now it's now going out of hand because there's now a counter order from another faction, from Finland, saying that people should sit at home for 1 week. And so you don't provide a solution that is worse than a disease. These are people whose economy is running down. Because what we are now observing that the whole thing is now becoming counterproductive to the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Because before now, the Igbo leaders were saying that Nnamdi Kanu should be released, having the court having given that order, and that the federal government has no reason to go to Supreme Court.
Well, wasn't it
Yes.
wasn't it to emphasize that
Yes.
that court order was also
Yes,
appealed?
the point I want to make is that the current trend now, where people are asked to sit down for 1 week, when some people are appealing that this young man be released, it's certainly a very bad signal to the federal government.
Okay.
And
Now,
to the courts.
let's look at it one more time now, because for most people, I mean, for a sit-at-home order that has survived 2 generations of government now, we saw that during the Buhari's administration, and of course it has started in this administration. We saw some video clips, I think it was somewhere in Onitsha, whereby some certain young men came out and their guns shooting people that came out to observe their normal daily activities and all that. Now, what do you think is going on? Is it that the federal government is trying to leave the Southeasterners to their fate? Or the fact that, what do you think is going on?
Yes, I think what is happening in Southeast is a very big minus to the Nigerian security, outfits. Because we cannot live in a country where lives and properties ought to be protected by the police and the army, and then a factional group is given a different order entirely and is being obeyed. So the morning that those shooting took place in Ebonyi State, in Anambra State, another part of the
Southeast.
So we have expected that the police and the army should rise to the occasion. Because if, for instance, in any such pronouncement, people refuse to obey it, as we are now observing, and some people are now coming to kill people, burn the market, and do all sorts of rubbish in trying to ensure that that order is being enforced. If people are being arrested on each time it occurs, and those people are being prosecuted, the next time order is given, nobody will come out to stop people from going about their normal businesses. But the situation whereby, you lead people to their fate, and even when they disagree to obey the order, these gentlemen still come around, kill them, burn their markets, burn their vehicles, and some people dying. It shows that, our security are not doing much.
Now, Barrister, before we try to stretch it further to look at, ask the question whether our security is doing much or not. Now, the Southeasterners, are you sure they really need freedom in this regard? Because some persons have actually asked now, is it that this it's just a group of people now, are they more than the Southeasterners? Don't you think the Southeasterners can rise up and maybe take the security of their lives and properties in their hands? Don't you think so?
Yeah, I think they have been doing so through community vigilantes and the community efforts. But I think the problem we are having in the Southeast is that this gentleman that is causing this trouble even appear to be more carrying more sophisticated weapons than the community vigilantes. You know, the Eastern region is known for being a kind of community that always try to establish unions, town unions, and all that. So the kind of system that runs there is a system where people have a way of protecting themselves. But where those town union, those vigilantes, town union vigilantes, you know, are not properly armed, while these gentlemen are having sophisticated arms, it becomes difficult to checkmate them. So, but like back to your question as to whether the Southeasterners actually needs freedom.
Freedom, yeah.
You know, the matter is a little bit challenging because if they really need freedom, then what it implies is that the politicians from the Southeast, you know, is the determining factor to that. You cannot be a governor of a state under the federal government and then be a local government chairman under the federal government and then be a senator under the existing federal government and then be a member of the House of Reps under the existing federal government, and then at the same time you are asking for you know kind of an indigenous government, or trying to create another government in a government. It's not possible. It's not possible. The fact that these politicians still function within the federal government, it therefore means that what we have is one Nigeria.
Now, are you trying to say that the Southeastern politicians now are probably fueling the agitation for the Biafran nation?
As long as they belong to the existing government, any agitation for self-government cannot work. It cannot work. The only way to have worked is assuming that the politicians are now saying that we are not part of the system. You know, then you are making a point. But the situation whereby these people are still in government, there is no possibility of achieving any other republic outside the existing republic, because the gentlemen there who are now saying this is what we want can't be able to achieve it when these gentlemen are still in government. The fact remains that if you go outside the big bodies like UN or African Union or European Union, they are talking about indigenous people of Biafra trying to talk about having their own independence and all that. The question they will ask you that you people are still part and parcel of the existing government.
Okay.
Now, the only way to resolve the issue is probably for the federal government to find out what is really causing the agitations. And if they have genuine reasons for asking for an independent country, then those issues should be addressed. And if it is addressed, the issue of equity, the issue of fairness, the issue of justice, the issue of right to good life and everything, there won't be any point of these agitations.
Yeah, a while ago, I said that some persons are of the opinion that the Southeasterners seems to have been left to their fate with what is happening in the Southeast. Now, a few days ago, we saw the allegation that the sit-at-home order was beginning to spread to other parts of the country, like in Lagos State, whereby the Ariana Kankafo of Lagos, in the person of Gani Adams, had to give a very stern warning that the Southeasterners should know that Southwest is not Southeast.
Yes.
A lot of persons have also tried to make comments against that now, that for the purpose of national unity, we shouldn't begin to make such statements.
Yeah.
Southeasterners should know that the Southeast is not Southwest. I mean, we're talking about national cohesion here, national security and all that. But let us look at it now. If the sit-at-home is kind of taking a toll in the Southeast, don't you think the Biafrans, permit me to use that word now, the Southeasterners outside Southeast now, can also begin to fight it externally? Let them begin to make their effort to see that it doesn't really thrive anymore. Because from the way it is going out, before you know it, it begins to take a toll outside Southeast and it happens elsewhere. Don't you think so?
I don't think so, because it's not possible to work outside eastern states. It's not possible because no government can allow any other people claiming to be a government in a sovereign nation. You can't be having a sovereign in a sovereign. It's not possible. And then when you're giving other such instructions, like a place like Italy as a country is a sovereign. Then you also have the Vatican, which is under sovereign. It's because of the peculiarity of that country and what the Pope stands for. That's why you have that. But if not that, it's not possible in this country. If you are given order of state home in the southeast, it can't function in Lagos State. It can't function in Kaduna. It can't function in Kano. It's not possible to function over there. So I think any person saying that, making a statement that southwest is not southeast, well, to a large extent, the person is right. It is not possible to work over there. And again, another question is this: is the state at home in the southeast, how has it helped the southeasterners? So for every project you want to embark on, you must ask yourself, what do I stand to benefit from this particular project? To the best of my knowledge, the state at home have never solved any problem. Instead, it is creating more problems.
More tension.
For every day the state at home is obeyed, the entire economy of the southeast is completely shut down.
Yeah.
So the eastern states are losing millions of naira on daily basis on all this shutdown. And this whole shutdown has also led to so many problems. For instance, if a woman who is pregnant and is in labor have issues, how do you not get to the hospital when there's no movement? And under the rules of engagement, no one has any right to shut down major highways. You can't do that. You can't, under the rules of engagement, you cannot do that. The army can do anything to ensure that there's free flow of traffic. And so I think what it all boils down to is that the federal government should step up on the issue in the southeast. And again, when you try the judicial system and it's not functioning, you have an option of trying an alternative dispute resolution and really find out from these people what is actually the problem, and then how do we resolve this problem.
Okay, before we come to the issue of Nadu Kanu, let us also look at, you talked about the federal government. That is more of the federal government responsibility now to ensure that there's peace in the southeast.
Yes.
But some people say that it is more of domestic issues that probably demand some domestic resolutions. Now, the state governors in the southeastern states, what is going on? I mean, these are domestic issues.
Yeah.
Is it that they are not willing or they cannot really guarantee the security of lives and properties in their states?
Yes, the governors from the southeast, have a bigger responsibility to ensure that there's peace in the southeast. Because if there's no peace in the southeast, you cannot govern well. So, but unfortunately, the crisis in the southeast is quite overwhelming. It's quite overwhelming, and it's quite overwhelming. It cannot nip it on the board without the assistance of the federal government. And so, again, the issue in the southeast is also a little controversial. Most times, because of selfish interest of politicians, nobody knows exactly what is happening. Could these boys be sponsored by the so-called politicians, and they claim that the people are being sponsored by IPOB and co? We in the southeast, we have different factional bodies. You have Eastern Security Network, ESN. You have IPOB. You have the one they call Ebobago, and all that. And then you have Nigerian police. That Nigerian army, and so who is actually calling the shots? Sometimes it's a little bit confusing. So the southern governors, the southeastern governors, have their own role to play. The southeastern traditional rulers, they have their own role to play in all this. So I think it's high time that they call for a roundtable discussion on how to step up security in the Southeast.
Okay. Now, before Nnamdi Kanu was arrested, the agitation by the Biafran nation started before then, way back to so many years before now. It's more or less like an offshoot of the last civil war that we had and all that. Now, little wonder, if the federal government, if eventually Nnamdi Kanu is released today, do you think the sit-at-home order will stop? That's one question. And of course, do you think the agitation for the Biafra nation will cease? Because as it stands now, it is the agitation of Biafra nation has been there. But right now, very just now, it is the release of Nnamdi Kanu. So what exactly is the fight for? Is it for the Biafra nation or for the release of Nnamdi Kanu, from your point of view?
Yes, what the Eastern leaders are saying is that the court, having freed Nnamdi Kanu should be allowed to go. Again, the matter has moved from the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So the proper thing to do is to allow the Supreme Court to make its own pronouncements.
Okay.
Because the matter is before the court, and whatever you say now is prejudice to the fact that the matter is before court.
It's in court, yeah.
And so the Supreme Court should be allowed to do their job. I think for me, the proper application should be that the Supreme Court should fast track the matter. Is that the man is in prison or the man is released? And there's also a call to the president, Bola Tinubu, to give a state pardon to Nnamdi Kanu, because Tinubu cannot just release the Nnamdi Kanu. The only thing he can do is probably to move through the Attorney General of the Federation. The president can instruct the Attorney General of the Federation to apply, invoke its powers by withdrawing the charges against Nnamdi Kanu.
And maybe grants him pardon.
Again, maybe, yes. The moment the charges are withdrawn, the court will ask him to go. That's the only way out. And Tinubu cannot sit down at the leisure of his office and ask the man to go. Everything must flow from the Attorney General of the Federation. And I feel that the cabinet is still in the making, in the process. And until the ministers are named and cleared by National Assembly, nothing can happen.
So with that now, you think that will stop the agitation for the Biafra nation?
No.
Because just like what I said.
Yes, you asked a question. Yes, to that. I think what I'm trying to tell you is that the eastern part of this country are not asking for Biafra nation.
What are they asking for?
Listen, they're asking for equity, justice, and good governance. That's what they're asking for. It is only a group of people, probably under whichever umbrella, maybe IPO, that is saying that they need Biafra, not the entire Eastern region. If the entire Eastern region is asking for Biafra, then there will be no federal government presence in the Eastern Nigeria. I want this to be understood very, very well. I start by telling you that the governor from the Eastern region belongs to political parties that is
outside Southeast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have senators from the Southeast. We have members of House of Representatives. We have local government chairmen. We have members of the boards or whatever. The Southeast is part of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And you can't be asking for an independent nation without consulting with the people, without people saying, yes, we want to go. All the traditional rulers in the Southeast, nobody is telling you that they want to go. All the governors are not saying so. All the senators are not saying so. The market women, the students are not saying so. The people that are saying this are just a group of individuals, for whichever reason, are creating these problems. And so, if the Southeasterners want to go, they know what to do. And so, before Ojukwu declared Biafra, or declared the war, he consulted with the people. And after consulting with the people, he made them understand, look at what's happening in the north, that there's a pogrom, and people are being killed and all that, and that the Aburi Accord was what he stood on. And because the then head of state, Yakubu Gowon, couldn't agree on the Aburi Accord, that he's declaring the Eastern region and East territorial waters, the Republic of Biafra. He did consult with its people, and they did say, okay, we want to go. And that is why he saw that cooperation for that 3 years of that civil war. But what we're having, what is on ground now, is quite different from what transpired in 1967, 1970.
So what's on ground now is the call for equity.
What is on ground is the call for equity.
Now, when you
just
say
a good conscience. So the people that are asking for Biafra now are on their own. These people are not speaking for the entire Eastern region. They are not speaking for the entire Eastern region. So what I'm saying is that if the Eastern region is asking for a sovereign state of Biafra, then the entire Eastern region should be saying, this is what we want. Okay. But we cannot have a sovereign in another sovereign.
Okay, so what you are saying is that IPOP is different from the entire Eastern region.
Yes.
Now, the lack of equity that you talked about now, what exactly do you mean? How do you think the Southeasterners now have been subchanged, if I get what you're saying correctly now? In what ways?
Yeah, if there is federal presence in the Southeast, and wherein federal government is, executing projects that will improve on the life of the people, then there will be no agitation, for further equity or justice like I used. And again, so let me give you one example. For over 30, from the time the Civil War ended to just last year, last 2 years, the whole Eastern states were using one bridge, on Head Bridge.
Yeah, the main bridge there.
And that bridge was built several years back. And of course, it was at a point of even collapsing when Olusegun Obasanjo awarded the building of the new bridge, Second Niger Bridge, at the twilight of his administration, almost at the eve of his departure. That contract was awarded. And again, so when Buhari came to power, he initiated that project should be, executed. And as we speak right now, the Second Niger Bridge is a world-class bridge. It shows a federal presence in that aspect of, infrastructure development in the Southeast. So what Southeasterners need is more of that in the Southeast. I think if...
but I think that has been a major call that they needed all these years. That has been a major point of agitation. So now that the federal government gave it, one would have expected that the call for, this talk of, not bringing development to the Southeast would have ended.
Anambra State is just one state in the Eastern region. Just one state, it's the Eastern region. We need that kind of, federal presence in all the Eastern states in Nigeria. And, apart from infrastructure development, because, that part of the country came out from the rubbles of war in 1970. And so, of course, that the Gowon's administration did, talked about the 3 R's: reconciliation, reconstruction, and rehabilitation.
Of the Southeast.
On the Southeast, yeah. After the war. I am not sure that was implemented. And so if you go to a place like, Abia State, so the rate of infrastructural decay in Abia State is most worrisome. And the same thing with other states in the Eastern region. So the federal government need to show more of its presence and, let these people from the Southeast, have that feeling they are the part of the federal government. I think if that is done, there will be no agitation for Biafra, there will be no agitation for a sovereign state and all that. I think everybody will be proud to be part and parcel of this country. Okay. Yes.
All right, so as we draw the discussion close this morning, so let's do a kind of a recap now for the sit-at-home. So what is our message this morning? Because all this idea of sit-at-home today, you don't go anywhere tomorrow and all that is not happy,
No.
I have a cousin that was supposed to travel to Onitsha some few days ago, but because of the fear of uncertainty, he couldn't go. Yeah. And of course, this fear, this tendency now that it may spread to other parts of the country is also very worrisome. So what is our message now to believers of this sit-at-home thing, that not until you sit at home, you cannot attract the attention of the federal government?
Yeah, the message this morning is that the federal government of Nigeria, under the new administration, should step up security in the southeast. The sit-at-home in the southeast is causing so much problems, not only for southeasterners, but for the entire nation. Just like you said that your cousin wanted to travel to southeast, but he couldn't make it because of uncertainty. So other part of the country have business to execute in the southeast. You know, so the federal government should step up security in the southeast so that if anybody makes such a pronouncement, the person should be arrested. If anybody comes to enforce it, the person should be arrested and prosecuted. And unfortunately for now, these boys are killing innocent people, burning people's vehicles and all that. Others should stop. The only way it can stop is the federal government can step up security in the southeast. Because the people are handicapped. The people from the southeast, they're handicapped. And if there's a sit-at-home and you decide to disobey it, and then when you come out, you lose your life, or if you have a vehicle, the vehicle is burnt, and nobody's been arrested, and nobody is being prosecuted, you feel... And
nobody is being compensated
too. You feel that probably, you live in a state, in a Hubeian state, in a lawless state, where there is no government. So I think the new administration should step up security in the southeast. And again, like I said before now, set up a committee to look at those states from the southeast, find actually what are the problems and see how they can do the needful.
But are you sure the southeasterners, are they really willing? Are they really willing? You know, I asked the question a while ago. Can this IPOP set, can it be more than the whole southeasterners that we find them making progress almost every time?
Well, in the state of Israel, where people are armed, everybody's armed in Israel to protect themselves. You know, in Nigeria, the opposite is the case. Now, the Easterners are not armed. About the law, of course, if anybody sees you with arms, is unlawful possession of firearms. And so there is something you can do when you're not armed to the man who is armed. And so I feel the people are handicapped. They can't do much without the security apparatus. And like I also said, you cannot have a sovereign in a sovereign. And what is happening in the southeast is being criminalized. I think a set of criminals are doing this because ordinarily you can't be talking about a sovereign state in the absence of the stakeholders of that. It's not possible. You can't achieve it. It's not achievable for now.
All right. So
if you're talking about equity and justice, then you may have a good point. But you can't be talking about a sovereign state of Biafra now without engaging the people.
So I want to say a very big thank you to Barrister Alakwe Mbanefo, a constitutional lawyer, and of course somebody that believes so much in the peace of the Southeasterners, and you've heard it from his mouth that let us allow the security apparatus to work, and also he has also charged the federal government to ensure that security returns to the Southeast. But the state governors have a major role, a major responsibility to play in all of this. That's what we have said here. So we just hope and pray that the sit-at-home should not escalate into other states. That's just the way it is. Thank you so much, Barrister, for finding time to come on the show today. All right, so that's the discussion segment now on the program this morning on ITV. So we'll take a short pause now. Of course, we'll return back so that we'll conclude the program this morning.